What is up, you guys? Welcome to Illumination Lab. My name is Justin, and today I'll be showcasing a tarot deck I made using Cinema4D. My goal today is to show you a few examples of how I made each card, how the process went, and ultimately go over the project in its entirety. I'm excited for this one. This is probably the longest project I've had in Cinema4D, so without further delay, let's get into the showcase. Alright, so starting out the showcase today, we are starting with the death card here. So for those who don't know, tarot's been around for quite a long time. So with doing this project, it was really interesting because I had to look up each and every card within the tarot deck. In a traditional tarot deck, there's about 78 cards. So I had to look up each and every card, and when I was making these scenes, I had to ensure that I was sticking to the integrity of the card. And so when we're looking at the traditional death card, usually that card depicts the Grim Reaper of some sort, and the Grim Reaper is riding some sort of horse, often has some sort of sickle or scythe, and then has some sort of flag. So what I did within the scene here is something similar to the original, but of course making it a little bit different. So I have the Grim Reaper here, I have the scythe, and then the scythe is actually attached to this flag here. And then I found a skeleton asset. I threw in some armor on top of the skeleton here, and then what I did was I converted over a horse statue here and kind of lined it up to the scene here. So with tarot cards, I know that both color and symbolism is really important, and so I think with the Grim Reaper specifically, or the death card in general, I probably went through about 8 to 10 different drafts of not only the setting and what I wanted the card to look like, but really I had different camera angles. And so when I was originally going into this project, I wanted to be very rigid with the camera. I wanted to line it up to its original viewpoint. And then later on down the road within the project, I decided to kind of play around with the different camera looks or just composition in general. And so as we pull up the render view here, I wanted to make sure that the one I made had some sort of similarity to the original. I know the original had these orange flowers here, and the original also had a body of water, and orange, the color orange was really important. So I took those roses and then I kind of played around with some orange lighting to kind of create a similar effect, but of course it's original and something that's a little bit different. For those who aren't familiar with tarot cards, traditionally with tarot cards, it is very illustrative. It's more of a 2D aspect. So I thought it'd be interesting to do something within 3D here. So like I said before, there's 78 cards within a deck, and then I made 78 independent scenes here in Cinema4D. So a different approach here for sure. And what was really unique about this is it allowed me to play around with 78 different settings and really kind of learn Cinema4D that way by giving myself a project that has both constraints as far as what each scene needs to look like. And so that was actually one of the fun parts for me, is I was able to, again, kind of be a little bit more creative, play around with it, but at the same time make sure that the integrity of the actual card comes through. So, and next up is the Queen of Swords here. So you saw both the Queen of Swords and the Death card in that animation there. So with the Queen of Swords, it is a part of the suit system. Like traditional playing cards, tarot cards has a suit system, so it has swords, pentacles, cups, and wands. And so obviously the Queen of Swords is a part of that suit here. And so when I was playing around with the swords in general, every sword card had a desert theme to it. And so with each suit, I wanted to have a congruent theme throughout the suit. So whenever you were pulling a sword card, that you were going to get some sort of abstract desert theme. And then of course with pentacles, cups, all the others, you have different themes as well too. So I thought that would be somewhat interesting to do, since we do normally see that in traditional playing cards. And so I wanted to make sure I did that within the deck here. As we pull up the render view for the Queen of Swords, and really with this one, I wanted to make both a somewhat of a aesthetic look, but at the same time, again, make sure that I was doing right by the card. With the traditional Queen of Swords, it often represents, clarity, intellect, assertiveness. And so I thought by making sure that she had some good body language here, and then really kind of playing around with the colors and the lighting, I thought that using the colors and the lighting in a specific way will really kind of bring out some emotion within the view here. And so I decided to go with this composition originally, with having her sitting down here looking out. You can kind of see the sun. I know in this one here, this isn't exactly the finished version here, but I was kind of playing around with the mountains back here, especially during the animating. I wanted to kind of reduce the render time, so I deleted a lot of assets that I had within the scene to kind of help with the render time here. But again, you could kind of play around with it. You can move the camera within the scene here. Again, that's a huge differentiation between this tarot deck here and a traditional tarot deck, because again, a traditional tarot doesn't do anything within the 3D space. It's all 2D or illustrative. So again, with the Queen of Swords, really I just had to get an idea for the card, kind of construct the piece, again, make sure that I have some sort of dynamic body language and the use of colors, a way of evoking emotion. And then also too, with rendering this out, I wanted to make sure that, again, I had a good composition, but I had something that would make sense on a physical card. And so with this one, like the death card, I did have to play around with a few different drafts just to see exactly how I wanted it to look. And then of course, when we go to the manufacturing process, they had a lot of different stipulations as far as what the card has to look like, or just the size of the card in general. And so I really had to kind of go back in and line it up as far as my camera or my composition goes, to really make sure that when this card actually printed out, it would keep that same look that I was going for. All right, so moving on to the tower card here. The tower card is actually one of my favorites, and within tarot, not a lot of folks enjoy it, but just because it really signifies like a major shift or disruption of, it just calls for personal transformation. There's a lot of sudden change, revelation, upheaval. It's just a not so fun card, but a necessary card. So with this one here, instead of doing a traditional tower like the traditional card does, well, the traditional card has, I use a lighthouse here. And so within this scene, you can see the lighthouse. I use some lightning here. Again, just another symbolism of the card here. And then of course you'll see this tube here. I utilize this wooden tube here to kind of bring together all the cards. Like I just said before, each card has its own suit and that has its own theme, but I wanted to kind of bring one thing to almost each card to kind of bring it all together, so you know that it's somewhat of a cohesive piece put together. So for this one, what I did was I made a landscape here and just kind of played around with the displacement, add in some rocks here to really give you that cliff look, as if the lighthouse here is on a cliff. And then I threw in some water down below here. As far as the background goes, I use a area lights, and then I just bring in a picture here of this storm. And so I think the reason why I did that was it was a little bit easier to render at the end of the day instead of making clouds myself. If I can kind of somewhat cheat it a little bit with getting the same look, then that's just fine enough for that. So, but altogether, I wanted to bring in both the stormy clouds, the ground here as well, with the lightning to kind of bring together the theme of the tower card here. Alright, so transitioning to the back of the card. So originally I was playing around with a few different options as far as like a more of a 2D look for the back side of the cards, but then I just thought, you know, this is mainly a 3D deck here, so why shouldn't I just do another 3D environment here? So that's what I did on the back side here. So really with the backside, what I wanted to do was kind of bring in all of my symbols or just elements together. So if you look here, you have both the pentacles, cups, wands, and swords here, and then you have the two figures being the king and queen here, and then of course the tube in the back to kind of bring everything together. I brought in the lighthouse because the lighthouse is kind of like the mascot of the of the tarot deck here. And then of course we had so what I did was I went ahead and rendered out a few different shots of this scene here, and then what I did was I brought it into another software program and kind of played around with it, added in a few different colors as well, and that's how I eventually got to the back here. So this one, like some of the other ones, it took about 8 different attempts at it. I was just kind of playing around with it. I didn't exactly know what I wanted to go with. I think what was so interesting about this is with all the cards, you don't have as much freedom within the scene, and so after doing all 78 cards, it was a little shocking having that freedom. So it did kind of take a while for me to kind of branch out and try a few different things. So but I went ahead and did this one here. Thought it turned out pretty good here. What I also utilize as well too is a dome lights. So I found really cool looking HDRI, cranked it up a bit, and then you can kind of see that the reflections within the people here. It gave them a really nice little highlight here, both on their faces, and then you could kind of see it wrap around their head as well too. So again, just kind of played around with it, came out with that effect, and decided to go with it here. To create this animation here, and then to also make up a few different ads as well too, I wanted to make a 3D render of the actual tarot card deck. So I have these two scenes here. The first scene here is from the actual animation, and so I wanted to kind of show that in a 3D form here. So what I did here was bring in a S-curve. I kind of played around with a few gobos here and an area light, and then I also made the tarot card deck out of a few different cubes and cylinders. And so this was actually probably the hardest part of the animation, or just creating an animation in general. I've never really done an animation before. I learned quite a bit. There was some some frustrating parts for sure as far as getting it right. And so the animation you saw here was my first real animation. I did apply a few different sound effects to kind of bring it to life a little bit more, but I knew the best way to learn was to actually kind of get your you know, your hands dirty and kind of do it yourself and kind of figure out the process as you're doing it. So yeah, this one here is for the animation, and then I also have this scene here with this purple background. So I did do a few renders of this one, again more for promotions or ads, and then I took a few different shots here, both like frontal shots and then also like a side view as well too. So with this one, I think I kind of played around with a few different colors and a few different gobos as well. I decided to go with this kind of like a dark purple, like a paint gloss purple. I thought the purple really complemented the yellow on the deck, and so I think it kind of helped the deck kind of stand out because of how bright it is here. So I think the dark purple background really helps kind of shoot this yellow on the deck here really to the foreground, and kind of helps it pop out a little bit. So again, played around with a few different options, decided to go with this one, and then took it from there. All right, so last up in our showcase is the Hangman. So this one is kind of a bonus one for you guys. I decided to showcase this one because it is a little bit different versus some of the other stuff I did. This is actually one of the earlier pieces I did within the tarot card deck. So with the traditional tarot card, typically you'll see, you know, someone hanging upside down by their foot. It kind of just represents, you know, surrendering, release, gaining perspective through sacrifice. And so I kind of played around with the idea of, you know, this guy's been kind of hanging up there for so long, he turned into a skeleton. And so so I went ahead and did this one here to kind of do a twist on the on the card itself. So of course we see this tube in the background here. So with this back here, I tried to do more of a topographic sort of look where it has multiple layers here. And then of course I played around with the different lighting, and then also the Redshift environment as well too, to kind of give a kind of an odd distorted look in the back here. So in the original card, it normally has this guy who's upside down on this tree here. I decided to go with a pole, and then to kind of represent that tree or just life in general, I brought in all these flowers and vegetation here to kind of give that same sort of feel, but of course make it a little bit different here. I did kind of throw in a few different flowers kind of through the body here, so you could see the flowers kind of go through, you know, both the torso and then wrap around the spine and the legs here. So I just thought that was a little bit different. And then I threw in a few different flowers into the mouth as well too, and then brought in some lights into the eyeballs to kind of show that even though it is hanging upside down, even though it is a skeleton, it is alive. And so I went ahead and did this. It's one of the more simple ones that I created. Again, one of the first ones as well too, but I actually really like this one just because of how different it is. I think the hardest part about this one was to figure out what sort of composition I wanted to go with. With the traditional tarot card, you kind of see the man hanging upside down, like front on. And so originally when I rendered it out, I did have a same look where I did do it front on, but again, to kind of make it a little bit different or unique, I played around with a few different perspectives and played with different camera angles, and decided to kind of get a like a corner shot kind of looking up towards him. So, and then as I turn on the Redshift environment and turn it off, you can kind of see what kind of effect it brings within the scene here. Of course, when you have it on, it kind of gives that mist look, and gives that cloudiness that I think is really important to the scene here. And lastly in the showcase, if you guys want to either support me or you think this deck is really interesting, you can always go to luminouscanvas.shop and order a deck for yourself there. And again, luminouscanvas.shop is where you can find it. Just like that, that's the end of the video. A little bit different today for sure. I wanted to kind of show you this project that I've been working on. It's taken probably about a year and a couple months or so to kind of go through the entire process, from creating each scene to exporting that out into a different software program to kind of just to make the card, add in all the lettering. I had to identify what was the best manufacturer around, kind of do my homework there. I did run into a lot of issues with trying to figure out how exactly to make the box and to how I wanted to design it as well. So this was a first for me. Almost in all of these, this was a first for me in every single step. So it was a fun one for sure. I enjoyed this project. It was pretty cool, but it was definitely it definitely took a while, and there was a lot of moments there where it did get a little frustrating as far as the design versus how it was going to look for manufacturing. And so, but overall, I loved how the project came out. There was a lot of people excited about it, and so I originally tried to go through a few different sites to kind of sell the deck on those sites. I ended up just making my own website here. But basically, I just wanted to show you guys some of the stuff I've been working on. Like I said, this one was a fun one. Going forward, I do have a lot of projects that I'm still working on. I did get a few requests for videos to go over. I'm still working on those, so please be patient on that, and then I will put that out as soon as possible. Like always, if you guys have any questions, comments, anything, feel free to shoot them over to me. And then, if this is something that you like, or if you want to see something in particular, again, just let me know, and we'll make it happen. So, but just like that, that's the end of the video. I hope you guys have a good rest of your day, and I'll see you on the next one.